Welcome. Radhe Radhe. Here we are starting another live Sangha today. And may we offer this to Shri Radha Krishna. And as we await our first guests to arrive, allow me to set the intention for this space as being a welcoming environment open to everyone, regardless of background, identity, belief system, orientation, ethnicity, etc. Namaste, Sky Guardian. Hello, Kills. And hello, Alexandra. Welcome. Seems my microphone is very sensitive today. Let me just turn down its sensitivity a little bit. I think that'll be a little better. I trust that you all are doing as well as you can, given whatever circumstances may be playing out in your life at this time, both good or bad, or perhaps even neutral, boring, stagnation. Whatever it may be, you are certainly valid in what you're going through, and that's okay. For this space, I hope that we can come together to uplift each other, share positive experiences, and relate in one another's life paths. Although we might come from many different places, many different backgrounds, with many different perspectives, we are all unified at heart. We're all striving to get through this life together on the journey to happiness. Chloe Evans, you share that you had a good cry in a good way, and it made you think of how grateful you are. That's beautiful. Crying can be very liberating, that's for sure. And hello, Aquarius lady. Welcome. Now, since you all are so early, I get to ask you all my question of the day, if you're interested. I like to start my lives with a question and then a short reading. Today I'm wondering, what part of you would benefit from some more love from yourself? I would love to know. Hello, blue heart emoji. And hello, Jet Li. Please take your time in answering this. But any way which makes sense to you to answer, you're welcome to share. Aquarius lady, you share confidence. Confidence that could use some love. Alexandra, you share your body. You have no patience. Perhaps one step towards that patience is rephrasing it like this. There is potential for more patience. When you notice the absence of something, that implies the possibility for presence, doesn't it? It's a potential ready to be manifest. Superman, you ask, what part? Any part. There appears to be a typo in the question. Part of you. My apologies. Thank you. There. That's better. And thank you, Jen Singh, for your rose. Radhe Radhe. Love make up forever? You share that your closet could benefit. Gently you ask, perhaps unrelated to the question of the day, why are we here? Are we real or a simulation? Perhaps we can talk more about this later, after I hear some lovely answers from all of you. But in short, I will say for now that regardless of what is real or what is not, being kind seems very purposeful. Loving others, serving the heart within everyone. I think that's a safe bet, regardless of the nature of reality. Mark, you had shared that less feeling guilty about what you don't accomplish, that part of you could use some more love. That's very understandable. I am Jan today. You share memories, a gentler view of past times. I really like that perspective, Jan. A gentler view of past times. That's really well said. K2, you share the ability to slow down. Sometimes life is faster than we need it to be. And Addie, you share your heart for sure. And thank you, Alex, for your hand hearts as well. Jai Sitaram. The world, says Allison. I love that you include the world as a part of yourself. So sweet. And hello, Cornbread. Nick Perez, you ask, am I in school? Maybe the school of life. And Allison, you also share your heart could benefit, for real. And hello, Mellow Maverick. Gills, you share the sensitive part. Absolutely. You know what it means to be sensitive. It means that part of your senses is amplified in some way. There is an amplification of the senses, so you are sensitive. If you are experiencing higher amplitudes of sensation, then the best thing to experience is love. Because even a little bit of love, if you are sensitive to it, goes a long way, right? Odin's son, you share that your entire life would benefit if you could love yourself and give to yourself the way I do others. I love that. That's well put. And thank you, Wayne, for your heart me and a fire. Radhe Radhe. And greetings, Alex. You had asked if I can bless your 3-day-old son, Philip. That's very sweet. I'm not sure what my capacity is to give blessings, but in any way I can, absolutely. With such a loving parent as you, I am sure that Philip is already blessed. And in any way I can set my intention out to the universe, that those blessings become amplified. That is my honor. Such a journey raising a child. We teach them so much about the world, and in turn they teach us so much about ourselves. Radhe Radhe Anna. And BBK, you share your soul. Soul is a good thing to love. It is the source of love, isn't it? And thank you, John F., for your tiny. Yippee! And your disco love. Hello, Kristen. Allison, you also share vulnerability. And Wayne, you share your heart. And Lord John Ray, you share, we should all be in attendance to the school of life, yet many are playing hooky. Well put. And hello, Leslie. And thank you, Caitlin, for the love you sent from Scotland a few minutes ago. And Honey Badger Heels, you also share your heart. A lot of hearts today. And it would help it expand more and more, like the Grinch. Grew 3 times. Sue, you share your thoughts, emotions, and past could each benefit from more of your love. I love that. Billy, you share your inner child. So pure. Hello, Ro. Oi! Radhe Radhe Malau. And hello, Sakiko. Just a potato, you share that you'd like to learn to listen to and nurture your inner child more. And that's a beautiful ambition, and I'm sure you will. Alright. Thank you everyone for exploring my question of the day today. I very much liked all of your answers. I think it's so wonderful that you recognize the potential in you to love and be loved. Become a circuit to your own expression. Now, though I am very grateful that we had this time to explore this, let us move on to our second segment, which we do while starting our lives, and then we can open it up to general discussion on the life, the universe, and everything. How does that sound? Good, I hope. And thank you, Wayne, for your paper crane as well, and a little crown. Jai Sita Ram. And Corey, thank you for your heart, me too. Now, today we are going to be reading from another section of this lovely book called In Love, at Ease. It's about a spiritual teacher to millions of people named Pramukh Swami Maharaj, and this is about everyday spirituality with him. So far, we're partway through the introduction, and last time we talked about who he was when it came to all of his accomplishments and humanitarian efforts, etc. Now, I'll just repeat that last sentence that we ended before we open up to the next section. The subject of this book is how, why, for whom, and with what intent Swami Sri committed to lifelong service and selfless love, a closer look at his journey provides greater understanding of how he treaded his own spiritual path and helped others do the same on their spiritual and worldly journeys. This section is called Humanly Divine. I like that. Humanly Divine. We find comfort in processing the world in binaries. It becomes simple. It is easy to label. It is black and white. But in our quest to distinguish between the two, we forget to appreciate what they inevitably create: the grays. These grays are not dull or unremarkable, but often go unnoticed because they look and feel average. They blend in. They are accessible, relatable, and attainable. They are intimate and proximate, and therefore they feel more real. These grays are where most people feel at ease, for they are more familiar. Our understanding of the divine is of a similar sort. We celebrate its manifestations in the skies, sacred images and scriptures, as we should, but often overlook it in its most tangible, relatable forms: the breath and the flesh. The popular opinion is that being human and at once divine is paradoxical. How can a mortal be God or even godlike? The answer lies in their effort and intent. Hindu traditions have always celebrated divinity in God's creation, and more emphatically in those who aspire and inspire others to reach for divinity. This may be why the Adikavi, the first great poet of Sanskrit, sage Valmiki, hailed Shri Rama, which is a common form of the divine, in his Ramayana as a Narottamat, the best among men, an ideal human who resembled the divine, even before lauding him as a manifestation of the divine. The Ramayana is one of two great itihasas, historical epics of Indian civilization. The text begins by praising Shri Rama for his ability and determination to be a perfect human, while encouraging others to do the same. The conversation between sage Valmiki and the celestial sage Narada describes Shri Rama as a humanly divine being who embodies seemingly contradictory characteristics with ease. For example, Shri Rama is refined, yet accessible. He is erudite, yet loves all beings equally. He is bold like a raging fire, yet can endure silently like Mother Earth. He is calm, yet enthusiastic. He is loving, yet detached. He is pleasant and spirited, yet profound and sincere. The balance and abundance of all these characteristics are impossible to find in one individual, and that is what set Shri Rama apart. It is what made Shri Rama humanly divine. It is this practical, easygoing, everyday journey towards human perfection that exudes divinity and helps others experience it. I share the stories and lessons from the life of one such ideal spiritual aspirant and master, through whom millions have been known and felt divinity. Interactions with Swami Sri's life exemplify a natural balance of paradoxical qualities that inspired others to aim for human perfection with ease and humility. The lessons from his life may seem embedded in a Swami Narayan or Hindu way of life. They may seem framed in a Gujarati linguistic and cultural register. They may seem to have originated in the 20th century and faded in the 21st. However, these universal and timeless lessons embody the wisdom which is relevant to all those walking on their respective spiritual journeys in life. These interactions have made everyday lessons of spirituality accessible to millions, and will continue to do so for generations to come. His life became a golden standard for spiritual excellence, while continuing to achieve and succeed in the quote-unquote real world. His spirituality was not remote or removed, but was real and relatable for everybody. And that is why thousands of individuals go about life asking, how would Pramukh Swami Maharaj react in this situation? In this book, I set aside the theology and the beliefs of the community to make sense of how millions experienced and felt Swami Sri's presence. I do not make the bold claim, nor do I believe that Pramukh Swami was God. I have seen him sternly scold those who tried to even hint at the notion. He was human, humanly divine. He was in love, at ease. His journey from Bhakti, loving devotion, in love, to Sahajanand, at ease, was an exemplary model of everyday spirituality. My guru lived in this world and resembled divinity that was otherworldly. This is how we experienced him. And so, we end the first chapter of In Love at Ease. And what a powerfully worded first chapter that was. So I thank you all for listening. And next time we'll start chapter 2, which is called In Love. Bhakti personified. Again, thank you so much for listening with me with this wonderful book sent by none other than Sky Guardian. And I did want to mention briefly as well that in case anyone was wondering about buying the book yourself, the proceeds of which go to help tribal education schools in India. So that's a lovely little bonus fact for you if you're interested. Otherwise, we may open the floor back up to our regular format of questions and answers. I don't claim to know the answers myself to any question. However, I will gladly claim that I am determined to come to some understanding with you as we embark on this quest together. And Aquarius lady, thank you for your heart me that you sent whilst we read. And Dionysus, Thank you for your heart me. And thank you, Liz, for your heart me also. James, you share that you thought I made content that was more about physics. Some people know me from my videos on physics. Other people know me from my videos on psychology. Some know me from my videos on mathematics. I made a variety of different kinds of videos. But the first video I ever made that went viral was on spirituality. And that is my primary aim in this life, to increase my spiritual understanding, although I have love for many different disciplines, including physics. Spirituality is closest to my heart, and to be honest, I was a little scared of sharing that side of myself on the internet because it's a very vulnerable part of each of us. I have gravitated to express that side more and more within the last few years. And good morning, Steve. And thank you, Liz, for your poutine. Hari Om Tat Sat. And Travadako, thank you for your rose as well. Jai Sitaram. And Dionysus, thank you for another team bracelet as well. Mr. Astrolabe, you share that physics complements spirituality nicely. I agree. One is all about looking outwards into the universe. The other is all about looking inwards towards the source of that universe. And thank you, Ragnhildur, for your trio of roses. Radhe or Radhe. Steve, you ask, do I eat like you humans? Oh no, I know I'm a weird guy, but I hope you also see my humanity. I had a lovely chickpea burger today and yam fries. I know I'm a bit of a cannibal for eating yams, but it was sufficiently nutritious and delicious. G to Infinity, you share that it is exactly 4 weeks since the past Yamathon, spiritual marathon. I think we're about due for another one once we start doing earlier times again. And for dinner, says Bubbles, some pranayama and a side of fries. I do enjoy a nice deep breath for dinner. Hello, Jai. And you're excited to finally start the core of this book, shares Sky Guardian. Me too. Me too. And you share Sky Guardian. If I do a Yamathon, then I have to read for an hour and a half throughout the Yamathon. I can do that. We can do multiple reading sessions. It's only fair. Mr. Astrolabe. You ask, does the moon think it has free will? You know, the moon is engaged in a bit of a heist right now. The moon is stealing energy from the earth. What is it doing with that energy? It's escaping the earth's gravitational well. No joke. It is moving away from us, using the energy from the earth's rotation. So the earth is slowing down. Some of you might have heard that before, that the days are getting slightly longer. You might have also heard that the moon is leaving us. Well, those facts are actually intimately related. The earth is slowing down because the moon is leaving us. The moon is leaving us because the earth is slowing down. That energy has to go somewhere. Conservation of energy. Mind you, it's very slow. I think the earth is increasing its distance from the moon at the same rate that our fingernails are growing. Pretty slow. But over the course of a human life, if you put end to end all the fingernails that you clipped, it'd probably be a reasonable distance. Do I know what that reasonable distance would be? I don't know, but it would be reasonable. And thank you, Aquarius lady, for your team bracelet. Hari Om Tat Sat. Yes, it's a good unit of measurement, isn't it, Bubbles? My DoorDash is about 16,004 fingernails away. I appreciate your Sanskrit knowledge as well. And thank you, Aquarius lady, for another team bracelet. Radhe Radhe. You also share, Mr. Astrolabe, that when you ride a bike, it applies a torque and rotates the earth just a little. Source was ChatGPT. Well, conservation of angular momentum tells that it has to go somewhere. But the earth is also mushy and a little stretchy and crumbly. I'm sure that the angular momentum was imparted towards a bunch of different rocks and levels of the earth's crust in your local vicinity. Hello, Mari. Kenny Cameo, you ask. Why does it feel like many souls are leaving Earth in this time? Well, I was talking to a friend today about an art concept, an art piece, where on one hand you'd have a watch and it would beep every time someone dies, which is how many times per second, you know? It'd be like beep, 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 on average. And then on your right arm, you'd wear a watch that beeps every time someone was born. Roughly the same. Beep, 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 probably. And so you could hold each watch up to your ears, and then you could feel by the sound how many people were coming into existence and how many were coming out of existence. I don't know why it had to be watches. It could just be an audio that you'd listen to with earbuds. as we have been live for, 35 minutes or so now, I'm sure that hundreds of souls have left this earth, and hundreds have also come. The flow of life is on a huge scale, but we speak about leaving Earth as if there's somewhere else to be. If you leave this Earth, you'll just come right back here. This is the place to be. Good evening, Kelly. Or whatever time of day it is where I am and everyone else is. It is indeed evening for me. Hello, Gaia. You ask how to succeed. How to succeed is a very big question, isn't it? It depends what you're trying to succeed at. Success itself is not an absolute measure. It definitely depends on what you're moving towards. And there are so many different things you can move towards. Success is also not defined by the results that you make, but by how willing you are to persevere. You could fail with a ridiculous ratio, but it doesn't matter as long as you are willing to get back up and take another attempt at it. A true winner is not someone who always wins, but is someone who is humble during success and can forgive themselves during defeat or failure. Human experience, you specify. Well, that narrows things down, doesn't it? Actually, it does, because now I can tell you that you are already succeeding at the human experience, and I'll tell you why. Because there's no wrong way to be human. Indeed, some ways of being human are conducive to certain emotions, certain thoughts, but no thought by itself is a wrong thought to have. No emotion by itself is a wrong emotion to have. If you are willing, all thoughts, all feelings, all sets of circumstances can be conducive to your growth as a human being. And thank you, Asma, for your heart me and a pair of roses. Hari Om Tat Sat. Mr. Astrolabi, you ask, isn't it good to avoid artificial sources of dopamine? Of course, this depends on our definition of good. And there are some pretty obvious definitions of good that definitely makes this statement true. But we must be careful to conclude that if it is good to avoid artificial sources of dopamine, then that means that people who are pursuing it are doing something bad. Then we run into tricky business of invalidating someone's experience. of course, we can motivate them to unfold that potential inside them for more natural sources of dopamine, for an inner kind of reward system. Well, dopamine is inward in terms of the body, but on a higher level of our being, where the reward comes from a sense of accomplishment rather than temporary gratification. That is a potential for everybody. And people are right where they need to be in that journey towards unlocking that potential, learning the right lessons they need to learn. In that sense, it's all good. Namaskaram, Mason. Thank you. And I like that idea of having spiritual programs for people in solitary confinement. There isn't much else you can do in such a space other than meditate. And if you're a meditator, it almost sounds like the perfect place to be. There are so many people who try to meditate and they go, oh, it's too bright in here, too dark over here, too loud. They just don't quite like whatever circumstance they're in. I need total deprivation from others. I don't want anyone bothering me. I don't want anything in my environment. Well, I've got just a place for you. And perhaps the reverse can be true as well, that those who are in such a place, although I certainly wouldn't wish that for anyone, they might as well also have a spiritual practice. If a rehabilitation center is really supposed to be a rehabilitation center, then how will they have that inner transformation if you're not providing the resource? You're providing the space for it, sure, and the discipline, but having the space and the discipline is still missing that spiritual component for inward change to truly occur, isn't it? And thank you, Angelic, for your heart me. Angelic Lex. Hari Om Tat Sat. Yes, you're very funny, Sky Guardian. Good try. And Auntie, thank you for your 5 tiny dinies. Yippee! And thank you for your 10 roses and a quartet of finger hearts as well. Hari Om Tat Sat. Chloe, you share that your meditation has been going good. You try to chant quietly so your parents won't wonder what that weird noise is. But your parents are supportive of you meditating. I feel that there definitely have been times where I've just wanted to do really loud Om chanting. I know it's not necessarily recommended unless you're a sannyasi, but I do love the Om mantra sometimes, and I just want to chant it as loud as possible, just have the whole body vibrating. But could you imagine being upstairs while someone downstairs is just chanting Om, Om really loud? It would sound like a passing lawnmower in the distance. Here it comes back again. And thank you, Mount St. Godal Organics, for your dancing flower. Jai Sita Rama. And Peter Schaefer, thank you for your subscription here. In any way in which I can be of service to you within my capacity here, do feel free to let me know, as always. Radhe Radhe. And good evening, Ripley, from Scotland. I am well, thank you. Smiley face. Kaireda, you ask, how to connect with your higher self. Your higher self, Paramatma. We connect to it by seeing a role model who is exemplifying it for us. If we don't know what it's like to express our higher self, then we look for people that are expressing that Paramatma. I was listening to some Himalayan yogis and yoginis, the technically correct feminine form of yogi, yogis and yoginis. And this yogini was sharing how she would talk about Paramatma a lot. That was her word of choice whenever she talked about God, because in Sanskrit there's a lot of different forms of God. There's Brahman, Parabrahman, Atman, Paramatman, Bhagavan, and of course many different forms. Rama, Krishna, Shiva, Maheshwara. The list goes on for a very long time. But she would always say Paramatma in reference to great souls that she'd meet on her journey. And to her, that was her source of divinity, is that she would look for, or maybe she'd wait for, those beings to come into her life. Paramatma, the higher self. Parama, higher Atma, self. And then she learned a lot about her higher self through them. Because it's not like I have a higher self and you have a higher self which is different from mine. Part of what makes a higher self is that it's non-different. It is our essential nature. And my essential nature is the same as your essential nature. But our personalities on the level of the world, these do vary and have differences and unique characteristics. So in any way you can get that satsang, that true association with someone who effortlessly expresses their higher self, then they are showing you how to express the very same higher self within you. Sky Guardian, you share. Yes. There is the yam, and there is the parayam, the higher yam. You know, speaking of my own name in Sanskrit, someone said a few days ago, Namaste. I looked into it, what it would mean. Namaste comes from the word namaha, which means salutations, and te, which means to you. Salutations to you. Namaste. So, Yamaste, Yama is the god of death. So Yamaste would mean death to you. So, whoever one of you said Yamaste to me, you were saying death to me. And thank you, Ripley, for that sweet slice of cake a few minutes ago. Hari Om Tat Sat. And hello, Dan Suela. You share that it's your birthday today. You know I have to sing you a happy birthday song. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Don Suela. Happy birthday to you. And many more. Well, I'm very grateful that you decided to stop in here for your birthday. I mean, a birthday is such a sacred day. To come into this space while it is your birthday. You are making this a sacred space just by your presence here. Thank you. That is very humbling. And best wishes to you on another trip around the sun, as you are 1 year wiser and more experienced. You're very welcome. I forgot the cha-cha-cha. Yes, it's a regional difference. And Dob Darker, hello, and thank you for that heartmate a moment ago. Hari Om Tat Sat. Anna, you ask, what would I say is the biggest demonstration of intelligence? Humility. Isn't it so? That you could have all the knowledge in the world, yet, if you allow yourself to be wrong, now that is the highest demonstration of intelligence. And Romy, thank you for your fire a moment ago also. I almost said a new mantra. That's not a mantra at all, but a Sanskrit word, Rajavidya. I don't know why that came to mind. The king of knowledge is what that word means, or kingly knowledge, rather. Rajavidya, Jai. And Ripley, you share, where would I suggest a novice begin in seeking inner peace? You know what I'm gonna say. Because you've set me up for it by the way you phrased the question. Where does one search when they're looking for inner peace? Well, if you look anywhere externally, you may find peace. Maybe. But will it be inner peace? To find inner peace, that must be sought within. Isn't it? So what does that mean exactly? Easy to say. Rolls off the tongue quite well. Inner peace means that consider how you are independent from the going-ons of the world. That even when there is a calamity around you, and by around you I don't just mean your body, I mean also the witness that you are. And as a witness, even your body is around you. so to speak, your feelings, your thoughts and emotions. Even that is external to you as the witness. Once you externalize your body, then you are left with the Anandamayi Kosha, the layer of bliss that you are. Inner peace means recognizing that nothing can touch you. You are like silence. As silence, something loud can speak over you, but they can never erase you. The moment that loudness ceases to be, what will remain other than that silence? No matter how loud that noise gets, silence can never be destroyed. It will always be there. You are also like the void, as Nerukan says. In that darkness, a very bright light might outshine you, and it may seem like that darkness is gone. But the moment that bright light stops shining, you will remain as that darkness again. The brightest light cannot take away the very void through which it shines. You are like a canvas. Someone could paint a grotesque picture over you, but that doesn't replace your nature as the canvas, which is still unchanged behind. Your essential nature as the space of experience cannot be altered by that which is contained by it. Knowing this, you will find inner peace, even with that loud noise, bright light, or grotesque image. Hello, Aya. Does it have a name? Asks Anna. In Sanskrit? Does what have a name in Sanskrit? The answer is probably yes. Ripley, thank you for that rose as well, a few minutes ago. Hari Om Tat Sat. That space in Sanskrit is referred to as Akash. It is from where we get the term Akashic record, which I'm sure many of you have heard. It's a spiritual idea. The void is referred to as Shunyata. And I'm not sure what the Sanskrit word for silence is. Maybe one of you know. And thank you, Ragnhildur, for another 3 roses. Jai Hanumanji. And Aquarius Lady, thank you for your star. Radhe Radhe. And one little creature, thank you for your pair of roses. Sky Guardian, you ask, have I ever watched The Good Place? I have seen some episodes from it, yeah. And I actually started watching it a few months ago and then I forgot about it. I just forgot to keep watching. It is fun. It's fun, yeah. That's pretty much all I have to say about it. And don't forget that show you told me about. What's it called? Under the Bridge? The place by my house. I was thinking about going to Rena is her name. Rena's grave, actually. I did find it online. It is near my house. Roughly. It's a 20-minute drive away. Mr. Astrolabe, you had asked, is information in physics conserved? If it is conserved, this may be proved. Akashic records. Indeed, the conservation of information is perhaps the most important conservation law. In fact, many different conservation laws are special cases of the conservation of information. As long as information is conserved, then pretty much everything else must also be conserved, because everything has information. That is why the information theory side of physics has that famous quote, "It from bit." It referring to the stuff of the universe, and the bit referring to the information, like how our computers store data. It from bit. And then, relating that back to spirituality, I have heard that Swami Sarva Priyananda extend this idea. It from bit from Chit, where Chit is a Sanskrit word meaning consciousness. That all of the material energy in existence, that comes from information, a subtler form. That subtler form comes from a causal form, Chit, consciousness. And that relates back to the three body doctrine of Hinduism. Material body, subtle body, causal body. It, bit, and Chit. Does that prove the Akashic records? I think there is an argument there, depending on how you phrase it. I also think that we don't even have to look for science to prove the nature of the Akashic record, because the proof is in the name itself. Akashic means relating to space, relating to Akash. Akash is the space. It is space itself that bears witness to all of the events within it. If this whole universe were to come to an end, and another universe somehow had a population that popped into ours and they saw this great expanse of nothingness. This is starting to sound like one of Swami Tadatmanandaji's thought experiments. Very sci-fi. Let's make ourselves that very advanced species. Let's suppose we figured out how to go to another universe. We mastered not just interplanetary, interstellar, intergalactic, but inter-universal travel. And we stumbled across a very boring universe that appeared to have nothing in it, or nothing going on anymore. What would we ask? Who would we ask for the events that took place in this seemingly vacant universe? Just as the body keeps score, well, the body of the universe, that is the space, that must have etched into it the events that took place. Like how Einstein said that the fabric of space and time has a kind of geometry to it. It can twist and bend and vibrate and ripple. Perhaps if you could listen to the vibrations of space itself that was left over, you could recollect the events that took place. The Akashic records are the records of space. And like a vinyl record that has all of the information etched to in that space of the record itself, you could consider space being a recording of the events that take place within it. Does that make sense? And I love that idea, although your name is going to be difficult for me to pronounce. Nate Dog, it's actually easy. Hard for me to read for a moment. You share the fun space fact. Turn the radio or TV on. Static is what the universe sounds like. I like that. I think people forget. They forget that static isn't some fault of the radio, something wrong with the circuitry. The radio is working fine. It's picking up the background noise of the universe, the radio waves that are all around us, both on Earth and from outer space. That's pretty fun, isn't it? Lori Burdo, hello. You ask, do I DM people or do I have a person pretending to be me? Oh, I think it's not just one person. I think there's a whole fleet of yams pretending to be me. I refer you to my disclaimatory banner up here. Now you're welcome to DM me, just not on here. And I will never send the first message. And Joshua Moore, thank you for your pairs of finger hearts a few moments ago. Hari Om Tat Sat. That's as you thought, Lori. Well, your intuition was correct, and thankfully it seems like most of my audience knows not to fall for such a thing. I don't know of anyone actually giving any money to that scammer or set of scammers yet, except for one person who volunteered to do it just to see what would happen, which is not something I recommend, but something a part of me respects, because curiosity is definitely something I value. But Sky Guardian, shall we read from another section of the Vachanamrut? Let us do so, and then we'll come back to our many questions and answers and conversations on the universe. The Vachanamrut is a collection of about 300 discourses from the last 10 years of Swami Narayan's life. He was a great being and revered as an incarnation, an avatar of Narayan in the 19th century. Today we are reading Gadhada 135, Safeguarding One's Liberation. On Posh Vadhi the 12th, Samvat 1876, which is the 12th of January 1820 in our calendar, Swami Sri Sahajanand-ji Maharaj, which is one of the many names for Swami Narayan, was sitting facing east on a large decorated cot under the neem tree in front of the mandir, temple of Shri Vasudeva Narayan in Dada Kachar's Darbar in Gadada. He was dressed entirely in white clothes. At that time, an assembly of munis, as well as devotees from various places, had gathered before him. Addressing the munis, Shriji Maharaj said, "Either you ask me a question, or I shall ask you a question." Thereupon, the Muni said, "Maharaj, please ask." Shriji Maharaj then said, "Suppose there is a person who, despite having little intelligence, does not falter when it comes to safeguarding their own liberation. On the other hand, there is another person who is very intelligent, so much so that they can point out mistakes even in great people. But they do not walk on the path of liberation. What is the reason for this?" The Munis attempted to answer, but as Shriji Maharaj raised doubts, they were unable to do so satisfactorily. Shriji Maharaj then said, "Here, allow me to answer. Such a person may be highly intelligent, but their intellect is polluted. As a result, they are unable to walk on the path of liberation. For example, suppose there is some tasty buffalo milk in which sakar has been dissolved." I'm unfamiliar with this term. Sakar, maybe sugar, it's related. I don't know. Something sweet, I assume. Now, if a snake's venom were to fall in it, then that same milk and sakar would become poisonous. It does mean sugar? Okay, good. Thereafter, whoever drinks it would die. Similarly, such a person may be highly intelligent, but they have perceived a flaw in the great Sant, which means saint, or that source, God. This drawback in the form of a perceiving a flaw, has entered their mind and is comparable to the snake's venom. So how can they possibly walk on the path of liberation? In fact, even if someone were to listen to their talks, the listener's mind would also fall back from satsang, true association. Moreover, wherever a person possessing such a polluted intellect takes birth, they always malign God or his devotees. Conversely, a person whose intellect is not polluted in this manner, even if they have little intelligence, does not falter in safeguarding their own liberation. Thereupon, Muktananda Swami asked, "Maharaj, can one with such a polluted intellect ever turn towards God?" Shriji Maharaj replied, "No, they never turn towards God." Muktananda Swami asked further, "Maharaj, please tell us how we can avoid developing such a demonic intellect." Shriji Maharaj explained, "If a person does not keep the following 4 swabhavs with God or his saint, then their intellect will never become demonic. The first, anger. The second, arrogance. The third, jealousy. And fourth, deceit. Anger, arrogance, jealousy, and deceit. If, however, they keep even one of these four, then their intellect will become demonic, just like Jai and Vijay, who I believe were gatekeepers in one of the celestial abodes for Narayan, and they had committed some sin against their Lord, and so their fate was to be reborn in the world as demons for 3 lifetimes. Despite being wise, their intellect became demonic because they were arrogant towards the Sanakadig. Consequently, both fell from Vaikuntha, the abode of Narayan. Furthermore, when a person's intellect becomes demonic, even the virtues of God and their devotees appear as false to them. Wherever such a person takes birth, an attendant of Shiva, or the king of some demons, and worships God through animosity. Thank you for listening. So, 4 things to avoid: anger, arrogance, jealousy, and deceit. Similarly, it is more important that we stay on the path rather than being very intelligent but going on some other path. That is what I get from this section, at least. Of course, everyone is welcome to ask questions about it, and we can explore different areas of that. Otherwise, we may return to our regular format after that interim. Hello, hand fingers. Marcy. You thought that buffalo milk meant spicy milk. Yeah. I also made the mistake of buying buffalo pasta the other day, and I thought that it was just a type of pasta noodle. I didn't realize that it referred to spicy pasta, and I was not able to finish it. It was too spicy. And Anna, you clarify. This path for liberation is the path of yoga. Indeed. In fact, in some sense, yoga is a synonym for liberation. It by itself means union. It can also refer to the practice of getting to yoga, getting to union. There it is used in the sense of controlling one's senses, their mind, intellect. But the yoga itself, the real yoga, is the union that is reached at the end of the practice. And when that union occurs, you are liberated. And when that liberation occurs, you are unified. They go together. Marcy, you share that you're screaming because I say pasta and not pasta. I just emphasized the first syllable, I guess. Pasta. And Lori, thank you for your tiny a few minutes ago. Yahoo! And your friendship necklace. And hand hearts. Hari Om Tat Sat. And Lori, thank you for your hand hearts, as well as a donut 20 roses, and another tiny. Yippee! And Aquarius lady, thank you for your donut also. Oh, did I attribute that to Lori? I thank you both for your generous donations, but I do want to make sure that I get the person who sent them right, so I can recognize you individually. Thank you, Aquarius lady, for that donut. Radhe. And you share, Sky Guardian, that the Vachanamrut seemed like a typical Vaishnava one, attendant of Shiva, implying it bad. I know, it's very funny. Some people view Shiva as Bhagavan. He is Ishvara, Maheshvara even, God himself, the oblivion, the very lap of creation. And then other people look at him like a demon, the Lord of all demons. And yet other people look at Shiva as neither demonic nor godlike, but as just a yogi, real big yogi. There are many different perspectives on Shiva, which is fair, because by itself, the Sanskrit word Shiva is not very specific. It can refer to destruction in the sense of something good, bad, or neutral. But I also have a lot of love for Shiva in the sense that your guru does, Sky Guardian. I view Shiva as another form of Bhagavan, and even beyond that as Mahashiva, as Maheshvara, Parabrahman. I don't see why there is so much debate about which rupa, which form of God is absolute. John Oliver, I remember you asking this in another live. My mind caught it, but my lips never caught up to me. You had asked, do I view notable religious scripture stories as historical event or symbolic stories? I think you can do both. However, I am not attached to the historicity of notable religious scriptures, even if they were true down to the T. Even if that were true, I still believe that the point of them is not to be an account of history, but to convey spiritual stories, symbolism in it. I know that some people view interpretation, symbolism, as somehow taking away from the reality of it. But in my opinion, this couldn't be further from the truth, because the reality is so much bigger than the historicity. Reality is beyond the material events that took place. It is all about the spiritual events and transformation. Even in recent times, like the great soul Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi, he was once asked, "What is your message?" And he said, "My life will be my message. My life is my message." And indeed, what a message his whole life was, even up to his death when he was assassinated. That's a powerful message. And there's symbolism in that he was taking on the vow of ahimsa, non-violence. And yet he died from violence. That's very symbolic, but it's also historical fact. So even if the history is valid, which it doesn't have to be as well, it is the symbolism which is still most important. The message underlying the story. That is my opinion, at least. Welcome back, Chloe. You share that you can't sleep. That's quite alright. I don't think any of us sleep. Sleep happens to us. When we feel like we're the ones sleeping, then we might get confused about our control over sleep. It is like meditation. None of us meditate. Meditation happens to us. We can prepare ourselves for meditation. We can sit in the right posture, chant the right mantra, breathe in the right rhythm. But that doesn't guarantee that a meditative experience will come upon us. Same is true for sleep. I remember someone said that it's funny how we have to pretend to be asleep to fall asleep. You walk into someone's room. It looks like they're sleeping. You ask, "Are you sleeping?" They go, "No, I'm trying to." They get their body in the position. They breathe just like they're thinking. Try to get their mind to that dreamlike or restful state. We simulate sleeping, and then that signals to our body, alright, it's time to invoke the feeling of sleep. And thank you, Giz, for your finger heart a few moments ago. Heather, you share that you went to a shrink? You went to shrink? And you know what he told you after $1,000? Wait. Yeah, okay, gotcha. He said, what did he say? He said, "You're too big, I can't shrink you." What a cliffhanger. And Ripley, thank you for another piece of cake. A few minutes ago by now. Hari Om Tat Sat. And Angie Crazy, thank you for your octet of roses. And thank you, Dagger, for your rose as well. Lexus, you ask, could I explain why, while you were in public, you didn't feel you were in your own body and was unaware? To me, that sounds like kind of dissociation or perhaps depersonalization. But don't quote me on that, because those are very technical psychological terms that I am not qualified to diagnose. But that's from a psychological perspective. If you're asking about a spiritual perspective, indeed, when we come to that witness consciousness, Sakshi Bhav it's called, then we experience the whole world within us, rather than us being in the whole world. It's an involution of our typical experience. Usually, we think that we are in the world, that there's the world and we're contained by it. Spiritually, it's the inverse of this that is true. That here we are, and the world is within us, from an experiential standpoint. Perhaps you slipped into that Sakshi Bhav, that witness consciousness, and recognized your body to be within you, and your consciousness, pardon me, to be without you. Without your body. I don't know if part of your messages aren't sharing, Heather, but you said, in reference to the shrink, at least on my end, he said, then, as you are tapping yourself on opposite sides of the body. I don't know if there were other comments supposed to be in between. Feels like a radio station that's not quite in the frequency band. You just get a couple words here and there. Dun dun dun, says Chloe Evans. I am sorry. I do want to know. And thank you, It's Lol Goggles, for your 30 roses just a moment ago. Hari Om Tat Sat. And Shaiti, you had asked a few minutes ago, what do I recommend for first-time meditation? For your first-time meditation, keep it nice and simple. You may hear people talking about 30-minute meditations, hour-long meditations. You might even hear about the Buddhist monks that meditate 10 hours a day. Or you could have heard of the Buddha who meditated for days straight. And much longer, probably. The time component of meditation is a big hurdle for a lot of people. They feel like I should be able to meditate for long periods of time. But that's quite a commitment, isn't it? It's hard to sit down and feel like this meditation is potentially unending. So it's good to pace yourself with a nice short meditation, because it's not about the quantity of seconds that elapse, it's the quality of moments the quality of the moment of meditation itself. It is said that in this age, Kali Yuga, all it takes is 5 seconds to liberate yourself. 5 sincere seconds of meditation on who you are. If for even one of those seconds you are distracted by a thought or some feeling, then it won't happen. So don't feel pressured to have a long meditation experience. Instead, open yourself up to whatever happens. Be so open that after even 60 seconds of meditation, you are changed at the deepest level possible. Just surrender to that experience. And a great way to keep track of time while meditating without a watch or your cell phone is to use meditation beads. They come in various different sizes. Here I have a very large example. They usually come on a mala of 108 beads. And you go one bead at a time until you feel like you get to the end. And with each bead, you do a mantra. Maybe your mantra is simple, like Om Mani Padme Hum. You do 108 Om Mani Padme Hums, and maybe that's your meditation. Just takes a couple minutes, or if you're really fast, maybe only 60 seconds. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. And that's a way to time your meditations without using technology that people have been doing for thousands of years. And Sam, you had asked as well a few minutes ago. Do I know Tantra? Yes. Speaking of mantra, which is the sound component of yoga, there's also yantra, which is the visual component of yoga. There's also Tantra, which is the textual component of yoga. The scriptures, the texts on yoga vary. There's such a variety in different yogic techniques. Thus, Tantra has gained an additional level of meaning, which refers to esoteric practices coming from the variety of texts on yoga. The most famous of which is probably the Kama Sutra, which is a love guide for intimate relations with a spiritual twist. We could define it like that. And thus Tantra became known as a certain kind of form of spirituality which is very intimate in nature. But that's just one Tantra. Tantra means text or practice. That's just one of the many kinds of practices that one could do. Here, I'll tell you one simple passage from a tantric text, namely the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra. Vijnana means like knowledge, transcendental knowledge of Bhairava, the annihilator of the universe. In it, there's 108 ways to enlightenment or liberation, moksha. One of those ways is very simple. It's called the Soham breathing technique. It even has its own Wikipedia page. The Hamsa or Soham breathing technique. Depending on which one you do. You imagine energy coming from your Surya chakra, which is a secret chakra that's 12 fingers above the crown. So you take your 4 fingers and go 1, 2, 3, which means up here, there's your Surya chakra. You take your prana, the vital breath, from the Surya chakra down into your heart center, and on the inhale, you chant hum. And on the exhale, you chant sa with your breath alone. You don't voice it. And you keep doing that. Hum, sa, hum, sa. That's called the Hamsa breathing technique. Some texts flip it, where instead of Hamsa, it's so hum. Very esoteric. There's an example of Tantra for you all. Hello, Alice. Don Suela, you share that those mala beads remind you of an enormous rosary your grandmother had. It was just as large as that. I love that. Hello, Rory. And It's Law Goggles, you share that you love Zen. Have I explored it? You know, there's a lot of aspects of Zen that I'm unfamiliar with, which is funny, I guess, because Zen is very simple. There is not much to know about it, since Zen meditation is as simple as it gets. Zen master will tell you, sit. They'll tell you for what purpose to sit. How will I do that? By sitting. What will I accomplish? nothing. What? Isn't it for liberation, enlightenment? Nope. Then what's the point? There is no point. Then what should I do with my life? Sit? There must be some purpose to sitting. No, just sit. So you sit. There, that's Zen meditation. Hello, Alice. I am feeling well. You share that I seem a little tired today. I don't feel tired today. It is funny. I feel the same pretty much every day. But yet I get such a variety in responses. People say, wow, you seem so energetic today. Other days people say, you seem very calm today. Or today I seem tired, which is funny. Inwardly I feel pretty much the same every day. So I don't know what it is. You don't have to apologize. It's all good. And thank you, Arvin, for your quintet of finger hearts. Hari Om Tat Sat. Talon, you share that you read my frequently asked questions, and you do have a question about what existential anxiety is. But if triggered, don't answer. Well said. I don't have a problem talking about it, but it's a good reminder for anyone who is uncomfortable with that conversation. There is your trigger warning. But I really doubt that we'll talk about it in a way that is going to be triggering. Existential anxiety is anxiety about existence. Simply put, in the most general sense. For example, when I was experiencing some existential anxiety, I would feel my emotions very physically. And I don't feel like that now, but at the time, my body would shake when I felt like that. And my father would see that and he'd ask, "Are you cold?" And I'd say, "No, I'm just afraid." And he said, "What are you afraid of?" And I said, "Everything." Everything. You know, that's not very specific, but that's exactly it. Existential anxiety is not specific. You're just afraid of existing. Fortunately, like all experiences, it comes to pass. So, I was able to recognize to some extent that yes, existing can be scary, but it also doesn't have to be. I don't know why my face and nose always itches whenever I do these lives. Not at any other point during my day. I guess it's all the movement of my face. Existing can be exciting. Indeed it can, G to infinity. And J6 Gems, you had asked a few minutes ago, where am I from? The answer to that question is Canada. And James, you had also asked, what is esoteric? Now, I'm not sure I can give you a formal definition. Esoteric is like obscure. It's not exactly secret because anyone can find it. It is perhaps a little sacred, being esoteric. It's taboo, uncommon, I would say. Something is esoteric, then it is outside most people's attention, and by bringing it into someone's attention, it would probably confuse them. Someone give me a good definition. And John F., thank you for your subscription. You know I'm always happy to have you here. Hari Om Tat Sat. And that is right, meow. Esoteric is spelled indeed that way. And cat ears. Michelle, you share that sometimes you feel as if your anxious heart is eating up your body, your nerves and your mind. Wow, that's a very visual image. And that makes a lot of sense. I feel that way too sometimes. Saint, you had asked, how have I found such happiness? By looking in places you don't expect. You also asked, how often have I been live streaming recently? Every day for the past several months now. Sometimes I take a day or two off a month. Eileen, I like your question and Sakura's answer to your question. Do I date? And Sakura responded with, he's in a relationship with himself, he says. I think that is a sufficient answer. You know, the problem is I love everybody. I think there is definitely value to focusing your love a little more one-pointedly on someone. And perhaps later in life I will experience that. But at this moment, you know, I feel very connected to not anyone in particular, but everyone. So how could I give more love to one person and relatively say, in a relative sense, less to another? I'm drawn not to any person, but the soul within every person. The one being in which we all are. I hope that makes sense. And Goddess Breya, thank you for your rose. Jai Sitaram. Alright, some good definitions on esoteric. Something knowable by a small group that shifts others' reality. I like that definition, Susan. G to infinity, you define it as a specialized interest. Magdalene as enigmatic, cryptic, arcane, abstruse. Only a few people know the topic, says G to infinity. And Judo Girl, you share kind of like eccentric. I think there is an overlap, though some nuances, of course. And Alice, you share that people are so beautiful. You see so much love in every one of us. I'm happy to hear that. Secure, you share that you love me, Yam, but not the same love for everyone else because I am special compared to anyone. That's very sweet. You know, you bring up a good topic, and thank you, by the way, that loving everyone might seem to imply that no one becomes special in that love. However, everyone needs a different kind of love and receives that love differently, and therefore the love that we do give everyone is very special and different from everyone else. So it is possible to make multiple people feel special, even though you give love more non-especially. And thank you, Shakira, for your heart me. Radhe Radhe. And thank you, Michelle, for your pair of roses. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And I love the way you put that G to infinity. You see how the soul in each person is manifested in their own unique signature. That's beautiful. We got some good questions that... Let me scroll up to read. Clement, you ask, what's true happiness? True happiness is abiding in the joy of what you are, without any expectations. Just bliss itself. No place to be, no time, no people to see, other than what is here before you now. Can't you see? And Meow, you ask, how do you not feel awkward when you're in a conversation? Trick question. Conversations are awkward. There's only those who can play off their awkwardness or feel like they're stuck in it. And if you're feeling like you're stuck in it, then maybe it's time to start embracing it. I remember when I was in grade 5, this new kid came into class, and this new kid, he kind of looked funny, let me tell you. Now, I had been a new kid the previous year, and when I was the new kid, I got terribly bullied. But this new kid, he was different. He was Australian. And there's something about the Australians, let me tell you. They just embrace their awkwardness. I remember that this new student, his name was Callum. Callum was reading something for the class. The teacher had asked him, and he completely butchered what he was trying to read. But instead of blushing and becoming embarrassed and closing himself off, he did this. That's what he did. Blah, 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 blah. And the whole class started laughing, and you could just feel that we all love Callum. Callum's great. He embraces his awkwardness. Not afraid to go blah, 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 blah when he messes up. And I thought I could learn something from this guy. Here he is teaching me how to really be a new kid and not get bullied. You guys are funny. And hello, Tom Sanderson. I saw you creep in. Ali, you had asked a few minutes ago what my thoughts were on Islam. One of the many religions in the world. One that we can all learn from. Like the great Sufi Muslim saint Rumi said, we are not a drop in the ocean. We are the entire ocean in a drop. And was it the great Sufi saint Kabir who once walked into a town and someone was dumping out the ashes from their fireplace, the charcoal, over the roof into the alley, and he was walking through, and all of this ash got on his religious garment, and the person throwing ash thought, oh my God, I have just committed a great sin. I have thrown ash on a holy person. That's it. I'm going straight to the bottom. Instead, that great Muslim saint said, Mashallah, if I was deserving of this, that you sent ashes raining upon me, then you should have sent fire, my Lord. And he kept walking. Instead of getting mad at the man who dumped the ashes upon him, that humility, he said, I deserved something even worse. Completely negating that person's karma, their action. And Ragnhildur, thank you for your swan just a few minutes ago. Jai Sita Rama. It's a beautiful gift as always. And Shalisu, thank you for your heart me. Radhe Radhe. And KG, thank you for your rose. Clement, you asked, how can one increase happiness? Good question. Happiness is what is there already before you. If you feel like it's something you don't already have, then you're missing it. Consider walking outside and it being a cloudy day. You could say, oh man, I am missing the sun's light. It is not hitting me today. However, a wise person recognizes that even on a cloudy day, the illumination before you is still from that very same sun. The sun isn't gone during a cloudy day. It's still in the same spot as it would be normally. The form is just not as perceptible. We don't call a cloudy day a sunny day, even though the sun is still radiating its same light. That light is merely being reflected by the clouds, changing its hue. But that very light which illumines the clouds is the same sunlight that would have been there on a sunny day. You say, what does this have to do with happiness? Everything. Happiness is not a cloud that comes and goes like the others. It is the very light which illumines all other emotions, which do pass like clouds. Even on a cloudy day for the soul, when there is a shower of rain or the thunder of anger, the illumination of those very sensations is none other than your eternal happiness, which is hiding behind it. So a wise person never concludes, I am sad, therefore I am unhappy. Just as a wise person wouldn't say, it is cloudy, therefore the sun isn't there. It can be cloudy and it can be illumined by the sun. You can be sad and still be illumined by happiness. Emotions are never black and white. They merely change form from one to another, and the substrate throughout all emotions, feelings, sensations, experiences in general is bliss itself. What you are is Anandamai. Ananda, bliss, Mai, full of. You are blissful. Literally, you are full of bliss. In fact, everything is a flavor of bliss. We just don't recognize it. We don't recognize sadness as bliss, even though it is a kind of bliss. Everything we experience can be blissful. We just have to recognize its primordial component, that is happiness. And there is a wonderful lady that used to exist, named Anandamayi Ma. She was the blissful mother, the mother full of bliss. She was lovely and a very interesting woman. I guess this is all to say that when you are feeling some other feeling that you wouldn't normally label as happiness, instead of quickly writing off this moment, try to find the acceptance in it. This is a very subtle point because, for example, maybe there's something happening to you which is inducing the experience of sadness. Maybe someone at work is calling you names. And if someone tells you to accept the sadness, then you think, that means I have to accept that they're calling me names? But that's not what I mean by accept. No. Accept your emotions doesn't necessarily mean you're validating the cause of them. You should stand up for yourself. Talk to your supervisor. Set boundaries. But the sadness itself, That is valid. You are allowed to. If someone is calling you names at work, sadness is a totally valid reaction, an internal reaction. You're 100% valid in feeling that. Therefore, we accept the emotion without invalidating why you feel that way. And Aquarius lady, thank you for your tiny. Yahoo! Alice, you asked, do I know of Alain de Botton? No. But through you are welcome to teach me someone new. And I love the way you put that, Denise, a moment ago. That today you are sad, but you are still happy and content. I love to hear that. And I'm happy that you are here, Christine. Much blessings to you. And Stanley, hello to you a few minutes ago. And thank you for sharing your blessings with us all. Plant dreams, you ask. Can I, quote unquote, heal any illness with my mind? Well, if I did, I'd be taking away a lot of jobs from trusted medical professionals. There is a relationship between illness and the mind, which we can certainly talk about. A healthy mind can carry an unhealthy body, but not the other way around. You could be the most physically fit person on the planet, but if you aren't attending to your mental health, you're not going to get off that bed. Conversely, you could have all of the disabilities in the world, but if your mind is sharp and happy, you're not going to let them stop you. You will find ways to work with them. Therefore, mental health is of utmost priority. In fact, your physical health may come as a consequence of your mental health. Think about it this way. A healthy mind will make healthy decisions for your body, and healthy decisions may help you in inducing a healthy body, as healthy as you can. And the link below. Thank you for your 11 fires. Hari Om Tat Sat. Colton, you ask if you all can get some wise words on a healthy breakup. There's no hard feelings, nothing to hate. I've had many breakups which weren't so healthy, and I've certainly learned from those what not to do. And I've had many relationships that ended in healthier ways as well. For instance, I remember this girl once told me, she said, "I really like you. I think we do make good friends. And not to play the let's be friends card, but I feel like the romantic connection isn't there, and perhaps we can explore other kinds of relationships. And I listened to that. At first I was hurt, but I thought about it, and then I realized she's right. Yeah, as much as I hate to admit it, we were trying to make something a certain way, which it wasn't going to be. And I've had other relationships which lasted for just as long or had just as many intimate moments, but that one didn't hurt so much. It was one of the few times that I didn't end up crying myself to sleep because it made sense to me. There was clear thought. It didn't have anything to do with my defects. They weren't pointing out anything that I did wrong or anything that they needed that I couldn't provide. It was an offer to explore other kinds of connections. And that meant a lot to me. And the link below, know that you are always welcome here. And John, thank you for your tiny. Yippee! Feline, you share. Hari Om Tat Sat. What does that mean? It's a very ancient mantra. Hari refers to Shakti. The power to create, maintain, and destroy. Om is perhaps the most famous of all bija syllables. Tat means that. What is that? That, in the most ultimate sense. Sat is similar. You could say it means such. What is such? Such, in the most ultimate sense. It also refers to Satya, truth. Hari, that potency to create, maintain, and destroy. Om, this entire universe. That is Sach. Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. And thank you, John, for another heart me just a moment ago. And Suzanne, thank you for your rose. Jai Sitaram. And oh right, thank you, Alice. You share that Alain de Botton is a writer and philosopher, talks about emotional stability and more love. That guy. Thank you. Sounds like a lovely guy. And Nikki, you share that you love how intricate a few words can be. One word with infinite meaning. Right? In Sanskrit, which is the language of that mantra, it's obvious that the words have such depths of meaning. But in English, we simplify our language so that all of our words have one meaning, or at least we try to, some objective meaning which we all understand. And that makes English a very useful language because it's not as philosophically subjective, for example. but it also allows for other languages to be more precise when it comes to spiritual terminology, like Sanskrit. And Liam Platt. You know, my name is Liam also, my full name. But it's spelled with a Y, hence Yam. Platt sounds like what I would do if I fell on the ground. Oh no, Liam Platt. You sent... I don't know why my mind thought like that. You sent 7 tiny dinies. Thank you for those. Yippee! And Tattvam Asi. Thank you for your 5 roses. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I'm glad you love the background, Becky. Alice, you ask if I have any advice to overcome SA. My experience with it, at least in this lifetime, of course, is limited directly. It's not no. There are some things in my life which has given me an appreciation for the sanctity and preciousness of our bodies and our vulnerability and safety. I think one of the easiest things we can do is confide in others who have gone through similar things. The association with someone who understands, so you don't feel alone. And there is a lot of stigma surrounding talking about it. You might feel even embarrassed to admit that you were in such a position. But talking about it is one way to speak your truth. And the truth is, you did experience something which was traumatizing, but that doesn't take away from your life, because it can be a powerful tool for you to explore some of, quite frankly, the darker sides of human experiences. And that allows you to connect so deeply with others who also share similar moments and provide them with assurance that it will be okay. And there is so much healing already underway. I think spirituality is especially validating for a lot of traumas related to sexuality, because just as many areas in the LGBTQ community understand, you are not defined by this body. And this is what the ancient scriptures tell us also. There is seemingly some conflict between tradition and this progressiveness, which is new. But if you go back way, way, way into the past, into the ancient time, actually this idea that you are not your body, this is something spoken about for thousands of years. We still must take care of this body, but we can recognize that what happens to the body is one or more steps removed from happening to you directly, and therefore your essential nature remains unchanged regardless of what happens to the body. This can be very affirming, especially to those who feel crazy in that they don't feel like their body. But consciousness is transcendental to it. It has always been that case. Meh, it's Pidge. Thank you for your heart me a moment ago. Hari Om Tat Sat. And I'm very grateful that you found some beauty in the way I explained that now, Denise. In any way in which I can be of support to further understand, you're always welcome to confide in me, and I will do my best to listen. If you feel comfortable, of course. Midnight Rider, you share that you're going to name the band Yam Plat. I like that. It's ridiculous and it's great. Everybody do the Plat. You know, I used to love that from ASDF movies. I don't know how many of you remember or even know of that internet series. Everybody do the flop. I would listen to that on repeat and I would just flop on my bed. There's videos of me doing that. And I record my sister, who was 4 years old at the time, maybe even younger, 3. I'd tell her, okay, after they say everybody do the flop, you're going to flop over. We're going to do it together. They were great. I'm glad some of you relate with that. I just have one sister, Alice, and no brothers, at least not biologically. Spiritually, however, everyone is my sibling. We're all siblings, children of the universe. And TSL, hello. You ask, is there a way I can talk about the anger deities / mirrors from Thelema? Perhaps if you can tell me more about it, but I'm unfamiliar with Thelema. I do know that some deities absolutely personify anger, and not in a sense that is to be rejected. That anger does have a place. Its use is in enforcing boundaries. Unfortunately, that which can enforce your own boundary can also be used as a tool to cross other people's boundaries. You can't have one without the other. In the same way, a hammer can be used to build a house. That same hammer can also be used to unbuild a house. You give someone a power, you simultaneously give them the ability to create or destroy, depending on how they use it. The same is true for anger. With anger, we can reinforce our boundaries. We can authentically express that they've crossed the line and that you will stand up for yourself, your own vulnerabilities, or those whom are in your dependency. Unfortunately, a lot of people how shall I word this? They don't feel like it's their right to stand up for themselves with anger, and / or they use that anger to repress the voices of others. Thus, we're all running around with hammers, which we don't know how to build a house with, and only know how to destroy a house with. But it has the potential to have a shift in its use cases. We just have to understand this point. And Liz, thank you for your poutine. Hari Om Tat Sat. And yes, Alice, some people steal hammers from others too. They take that voice of anger and use it for themselves. Greg RG, you share that Dharma is a religious creation by Aleister Crowley, based on many other religions, plus new stuff he had prophecies, so to speak, of. Interesting. Thank you for sharing. I'm unfamiliar with Aleister Crowley's work, so I'm unable to speak upon it, but maybe the influences that he drew upon we can talk about. Liz, you ask, did I use my knuckles to destroy a house? Only in Minecraft. And meh, it's Pidge. Thank you for the music play. And the gimme the vote. Definitely unique gifts. Jai Sita Ram. And thank you, Feline, for your rose. Hare Krishna. And thank you, G. And hello, Laura. I am doing well, by the way. The language that I chant in is Sanskrit. One of my favorite facts about Sanskrit is that many of you already know so many Sanskrit words, because they're very difficult to translate into English. Therefore, when they do come up in English-speaking contexts, we leave them as is. Like yoga, exactly. We've all heard of yoga, but what does it translate to? It's not an English word. Also mantra, I'm sure many people know it. Even just in the colloquial sense that, that's my mantra for hard work. Or guru, that's been making its waves around the internet, being a business guru or a life coach guru. But traditionally it refers to a spiritual master. Chakras, I'm sure people are also familiar with, maybe not intimately, but you've heard of those magic orbs along the spine. That's another Sanskrit word. Or even titles and names like the Buddha. Buddha is a Sanskrit term. Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma is a Sanskrit word. We know a lot of Sanskrit words, actually. Avatar, that's a great one, Anna. Yes. Hello, Pluto. Radhe, Radhe. Tatvamasi, you share. A Pundit, yes. Definitely, that's a big one. Tansy, hello. I am having a wonderful night indeed. Thank you. You ask, would I recommend Sanskrit or Latin? It definitely depends on what you want to get out of it. Both are considered liturgical languages. That is to say, they're not commonly spoken anymore, but they are used in liturgy, in religious contexts a lot. There's a lot of wonderful scriptures and written works written in Latin, in Sanskrit too. The body of literature that opens up through Sanskrit is perhaps the largest in the world. So if you're interested in that aspect, then I would recommend Sanskrit. It is also the more ancient language. And thank you, Feline, for another rose. Hari Om Tat Sat. And isn't that funny, Greg RG? I thought so too. I thought Mahatma was his first name, Mr. Gandhi. It was his title. I believe it was given to him as an honorific by some Africans when he visited Africa, if I'm not mistaken. Even though Sanskrit isn't spoken in Africa, just out of reverence for Gandhi's tradition where he came from. They said, you are one of those great souls, Mahatmas, that they speak about. And it caught on. A juggernaut is also, it's not directly a Sanskrit term, but it comes from it. Juggernaut comes from Jagannath. And if you didn't hear the difference, it's very slight. It's a name for God, Jagannath. Actually, one of our stickers here, if you are a subscriber, is of Jagannath. Yes, avatar, karma, they are Sanskrit. Jungle, probably, although I'm not familiar with how the etymology works for jungle. But given how many jungles are in the region which Sanskrit developed, I certainly wouldn't be surprised. Mohandas was his first name, Mohandas Gandhi. I didn't know that. That's very interesting. And that's also Sanskrit, which is great. I assume Gandhi is Sanskrit as well. Most Indian names are etymologically related to Sanskrit, especially in the north. In the south, where a lot of Dravidian languages take place, like Tamil, a different story, or the northeast with influence from, well, the Middle East as well. I love how many different topics we cover during our lives. They flow from so many different disciplines very easily. And G, you share that you went on Google and apparently jungle, candy, brother, and sugar are all Sanskrit. That's very interesting. Yeah, I think I've heard brata in Sanskrit. And today, while we were reading the Vachanamrut, sakar was mentioned as a sweetener to milk. And I had guessed that it was sugar. And Sky Guardian confirmed. So, what a coincidence, indeed. And thank you, Michael, for your heart me and your rose. Hari Om Tat Sat. And Feline, thank you for another rose. Hello, Alex. Speaking of languages, may you ask how many languages I speak? Well, in truth, really only one, and that's English. And I butcher it sometimes. You know, so many people here, they wonder, what's my native tongue? What's my first language? Well, the one I'm speaking. I guess I'm not that great at speaking it. Sometimes. But I am trying to learn Sanskrit, although it's such an enormous language. The vocabulary is gigantic. It definitely will take me a long time to get familiar with it before I can say that I know Sanskrit. Gregor G, you share that the word sacar reminds you of the Spanish azúcar for some reason. That makes a lot of sense. Definitely. Is that my favorite book? Says Pluto, the Vachanamrut. I have been enjoying it so far. I don't know if I would say anything is my favorite book, but the reason we're reading it is because it was gifted to us by one of our Sangis, participants, and that book means a lot to him and his spiritual upbringing, and I thought we'd bring the Vachanamrut to a Western audience. There really isn't anyone reading it. If you look up English Vachanamrut, I'm pretty much the only one reading it, at least online. Now that's going to change soon with a mutual friend named Shambo, who's going to be reading it on Instagram, which will be lovely, and I'm sure he will do a much better job than I will, because I was not born into or raised with the spiritual tradition that it embodies, Swami Narayan, but he was. You are loving the Gnostic text, Kelsey. That is very exciting. I'm happy to hear that. Speaking of Sanskrit, Gnostic comes from the Sanskrit gna, which means to know. And that is the same reason why we have a K in front of the English word to know. Because at one point it was pronounced. It was gno. It's very subtle. But you just start that word with a guttural tap. No. We drop that eventually, but the K is still there in spelling. But if you go back to Gnosticism, it's still there, the guttural sound, G. And if you go back into Sanskrit, it was actually more closer to the front of the mouth as a J, a gnya. It's so slight, and the transition from the J to the palatal N sound is very quick, so you don't hear the J, stereotypical of the J sound, but it's there. Yeah. Anna, you share that Sanskrit should be a universal language. I agree. But I'm very biased. See, Bear, you share that this feels like a safe space. That's the most I could ever ask for. Much respect to Cubo, thank you. Exclamation mark? iTunes. Wait, yes, iTunes. You ask, do I recommend mirror gazing? I almost read that as mirror grazing. I don't recommend you graze on mirrors. Mirror gazing, actually, I don't recommend it. It's funny, in spiritual scriptures, I've read this before, that one should not look at your reflection for too long. Very interesting. Why do you think that is? I certainly haven't paid much thought to it, but it feels right. There's something about staring at one's reflection which is conducive to an uncomfortable experience after a while. Now, do I think that bad things will happen if you do it? No, not necessarily. Just a fun fact I've heard from Shastra. Pluto, you shared that you used to scare yourself as a child doing that too much. Yeah. Sea Bear, you shared that you get scared if you look too long in the mirror. It's funny, isn't it? I feel like the soul gets very uncomfortable by the fact that it has a body. There is something unfamiliar about having a body. And perhaps it would be beneficial to familiarize ourselves with having a body more, so we don't feel unsafe in our own skin. And hello, Courtney. Sea Bear, you ask, do I always stay up this late? Well, I certainly used to stay up late, that's for sure. But where I live, it's not that late. It is 8 p.m. And Aquarius lady, thank you for your hanging lights. Always beautiful. Jai Sita Rama. G to Infinity, you share that you are warned never to cry in front of a mirror. That's very interesting. And Alice, you find comfort in looking in the mirror like at the hairdresser. Makes you feel grounded. That makes sense. All the stuff is happening out of your perception. It's good to have that within your awareness for the sake of vulnerability. To clarify, the context of the scripture that mentioned this was all about brahmacharya, which is conserving the sexual energy, which might just open more questions than resolve answers. But when it comes to deepening your brahmacharya, which is the inward path of harnessing your energies, it is said that it is best not to look at your reflection for too long. It doesn't say don't look at your reflection, it just says for too long. Romy, you share that crying in front of a mirror, you will see your soul. It can be uncomfortable. Definitely, when you put it like that. And that is right. It is 8 p.m. Supremo Fael. Supremo Raphael. Supremo Raphael. There. That's it. Am I in Los Angeles? I'm in that time zone indeed, but north of it, in Canada. Nikatos. Yes, you are very curious about this topic. Can I describe the caste system? The caste system was in place in ancient India. It is different to a class system, but it's analogous to it. In society, we have different classes. In ancient India, there were different castes. Brahmins, Kshatriyas. I always forget the third caste, and Shudras, laborers. It's hard to put it in a modern context because it was not originally meant to be repressive in the same way that the class system is inherently repressive. It was that there are different niches that individuals may fall into. They could be spiritual in nature, they could have spiritual inclination. The Vaishyas, thank you, that's the third caste, indeed. There were those who are warrior in nature, but mind you, a simple English translation for these Sanskrit words doesn't suffice. For the warriors weren't just warriors, they were also in charge of government. Like a king would often be considered a kshatriya. Similarly, the laborers weren't just at the bottom of society, they had a very important role in managing a lot of the labor. Because you can't have a society without a lot of physical work. Someone has to do it. They were called the Shudras. And the Vaishyas, they were in charge of mercantilism, being shopkeepers and stuff like that. But in modern times, it seems to have gained this idea that your caste is dependent on your family, like there's lineages of Brahmins and Kshatriyas. But this wasn't true at the time. In ancient India, one was not born into any caste other than Shudra. Everyone was born a Shudra, and through your merits and demerits, you may work your way up to being a Brahmin. Because the Brahmins were in charge of spiritual matters. And in order to have authority in spiritual matters, you first had to experience what it's like to be a laborer, what it's like to be a shopkeeper, a warrior, and finally, you gain your qualifications in spiritual matters also. It was in tandem with another system which, instead of dividing the roles of the people, divided the course of your life, where at first you were a brahmachari. For the first 20-25 years of your life, you were a student. In the next 25 years of the life, you were a householder. And then eventually you become a sannyasi, a renunciant. However, it is said that in the Kali Yuga, in the age of darkness, of hypocrisy and quarrel, the caste system falls apart, and it also becomes repressive, just like any other class system. So the caste system we know today is not a good representative of the castes that are described in the Karma Kanda portion of the Vedas, the scriptures from which they arise. And Nissan Rogue, thank you for your confetti. Hari Om Tat Sat. You will find that great teachers of the same tradition which the caste system arises, they famously dismissed the caste system. So many big gurus of India, they said the caste system is rubbish. It's not meant for the Kali Yuga, for this age. It doesn't work. Like, for example, little Shudra boys would be seated on the lap of Neem Karoli Baba, who was the guru of Ram Das. And people would say, "You can't let that baby sit on your lap. You come from a pious Brahmin family." This boy is a Shudra. He wouldn't care. To him there was only Atma, the soul, and the soul has no caste, no creed, no gender, no ethnicity. The soul in you and the soul in me is equally qualified for liberation. Nick Gatos, you're wondering, were the Brahmins in charge of the government? Good question. And the history of this is not something I'm super confident about, because at first, originally, it is said that the state, even the concept of a state doesn't really apply, but I'm going to use it here. The state was run by those who were spiritual. However, we see over the course of a few thousand years that the government matters were eventually usurped by the Kshatriyas. And then the Kshatriyas were responsible for government, and then spiritual matters became unrelated, just as we see in the West. Originally, religion and government were very interrelated. But in the last few centuries, the separation of church and state has become very different, and for a good reason. In this age, they simply do not mix. They become like oil and water. But when you go back in time, the distinguishing between church and state very much becomes ambiguous, like the great kings that believed they were appointed by God to rule the land. Similarly, the Brahmins were supposed to rule spiritual matters, and running a community was a very spiritual thing to do, because it's karma yoga. It is selfless service to all the people. A leader is indebted to its people and therefore is their servant, and that's a truly exemplary kind of spiritual practice in a way. But history has a way of evolving, and these virtues become too idealistic and ultimately unfeasible. That's for sure. Now, completely unrelated, but Sea Bear, you ask, what is my go-to snack? I've been trying to tell myself, alms food is alms food. Whenever there's nothing good in the house, I'll just eat whatever is conducive to filling my tummy, whether it's crackers or fruit or even chips sometimes, or cookies. Alms food is alms food. I try not to become too picky when it comes to it. But let me tell you some snacks that I do like. I love me some cheese and crackers. Absolutely. I love me some chips and dip. I love goldfish crackers. I love nuts. Apple slices and peanut butter. Things like that. I like snacks. If you have a snack for me, there's a good chance I'll eat it. You snack too much? Me too. That's for sure. Am I still eating animals? Asks Echo Leaf. No. But not just because they're animals, but because there is an import in eating very simple foods that don't have such an effect on the mind. But I don't intend on being a role model with my diet either. I understand that bodies need various kinds of nutrients for various kinds of tasks for it to perform. For example, I have a lot of love and respect for my mother, and she loves eating prosciutto. Of course, she understands that the animals that came to be in this form before her have suffered a great deal. But at the same time, my mother is very deficient in iron, and her doctor has tried many different iron medications, and the only thing that seems to work for her is eating meat that is rich in iron sources. But that's her body. For my body, it seems like my iron levels are fine without it, and therefore I am able to go off of it. But I don't believe there's one diet that's meant for everyone. And you like celery and peanut butter, Denise. I'm happy to hear that. Carrots and dip, that's a good one too. Yeah, I'm a big fan of ranch. Hummus, oh my goodness. I eat a lot of hummus. Romy, you had asked, am I an artist? Am I a musician? Even perhaps content? Or content? I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that in particular. Am I creating in any way? I have some musical tendencies. I don't play any instruments really. Sometimes I like to fiddle around with FL Studio, which is a music creating software on the computer. But in a strange way, I feel like my life is my music. And I love the harmonies that are created through interpersonal bonds and resonating with the world around me. Thank you, Benjamin, for your heart me. Colton, you ask if I can provide my thoughts on morning anxiety before work. That's something my mother definitely experiences. The way she works, which I guess is the way most people work. She works for a few days and then she has a few days off. Pretty standard. For her, it's not Saturday and Sunday which she has off, but she has to go back to work on Wednesday, and Tuesday night she's always anxious. She very much benefits from taking as much time to herself as possible. Instead of worrying about work before it comes, she tries to leave the worrying to the time that she is at work. When she is at work. If you're going to worry, at least worry while you're in the presence of that which you're worried about. But until that time comes, what is the use worrying about something when this is the time for you to spend? Don't give work the power to take your happiness away from the times that you're not working. Right? If work is so draining, then you deserve to be stress-free while not at work, at the very least. Now, you actually deserve to be stress-free even at work, but that's a whole other ball game. baby steps. The thing about stress is that it arises from identifying with something out of your control. Otherwise, why would you stress? There is nothing to stress about when all that you identify with is in your control. Isn't it so? But what if your identity is dependent on something out of your control? Then what? The good news is it's not. Even if you have responsibilities, your responsibility is not to the outcome. It is only to the effort that is within your capacity. For example, if at work, for example, you have some quota that you must meet, your responsibility isn't to meeting the quota. It's to trying your best to fulfill that quota, because that's all you can do. You're not guaranteed, no one is, to fulfill their quotas. But you can guarantee that you do what's in your capacity to hit the quota. As long as you are doing that, then you are meeting your responsibilities at work. If other people, due to their own misidentification with their true self, believe that if you aren't hitting your quota, then you must not be doing your best, that's for them to beat themselves up over, to stress about, not for you to worry about. If you are doing your best is your best. You can't do more than your best. Therefore, if someone is asking something that's impossible for you, why stress about that which is beyond your possibility? This is the nature of karma yoga, the spiritual practice of working without attachment to a reward or for an aversion from a punishment, which is still a kind of attachment to a reward. Your reward is that you don't get punished. To be a karma yogi means that while at work, you do your duty, and the outcome is in the hands of God. Literally, whatever your definition of God is, it's that which is in charge of the results of your actions, and therefore, all you have to do is be one with your action itself. If you hit the quota or not, or the deadline, if you meet all the expectations of others, that's not within your control. Remember what is within your capacity and be assured that that is enough. When this really hits you, after constant repetition, continuing to bring the mind to this fact, I am not defined by the results. I am not defined by my expectations, by the perceptions of others, of all these things that are out of control in this life. What is within my hands, that, and only that, I must take accountability for. Everything else, I'd be taking accountability for something in the hands of the universe. And the only one that can do that is the source, the controller of nature. And thank you, Mr. Luisov, for your rose. Hari Om Tat Sat. And that is right, Sky Guardian. Actually, I don't know if Shamba will be reading the Vachanamrut in English. He just mentioned he'd be reading it in general. Yeah, a few minutes ago, I guess I assumed it would be in English, but you remind me that it doesn't necessarily have to be. And thank you, Feline, for your pair of roses. Radhe Radhe. Seventh letter, G. You ask, what is the easiest way to master unidentifying with the ego and identifying with the witness? Tricky question, because the one in charge of identification is the ego. The ego isn't something that we identify with. It is our identity. It is, of course, not our true identity, by definition. The ego can only ever be a limited identity. But that doesn't mean it's a poor identity, as long as we are aware of its limitations. We might come to the impression that the ego is something to get rid of or remove, but it is our faculty of identification itself. So, for any part of the spiritual journey where identification is necessary, the ego has its use case. We are the witness. We don't have to identify with it to be it. What you want to identify as, that you already are. Rather, it's the ego which does not express this, represent that idea. And it can never fully, but we can bring it closer and closer like an asymptote. We bring our ego in line with being a witness, so it understands its role as that which identifies, and any identity will not be able to fully encapture the infinity of the soul that you are. And that's okay, as long as that identity is adaptable to each situation. It has the ability to be flexible, then there's no problem in having an ego. It's having a stubborn ego that is the problem. One that is fixed on a certain way of expressing yourself, of association, of identification. Having a fluid ego is sufficient. No need to dissolve it in acid or bring it under a hydraulic press. And thank you, Katie, for your rose. Hari Om Tat Sat. And Louisa, thank you for your rose as well. Yes, I agree, G2 Infinity. Artists are natural healers. I was thinking about the quote today, that the purpose of art is to comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable. So on one hand, it has the capacity to heal, to comfort the disturbed. But it also has a provoking aspect too, to disturb the comfortable. And people don't like that part as much. As no one enjoys being disturbed, at least non-consensually. Hello, Neom. Thank you, Care Bear. Care Bear, you do. You know you'll grow from being disturbed. And that's a very powerful perspective you've come to. That even when we are disturbed from our place of stability, we then learn how to balance ourselves back to center. And how we learn from that is revolutionary. It is more important that you learn how to balance than it is learn how to be stable. As long as you learn how to balance, then anyone who tries to push you from your point of stability, you can come back to equilibrium. It's like in physics, there's two kinds of equilibrii. There's a stable equilibrium. That's like at the bottom of a hill. You can try to roll that ball at the bottom of a hill up the side, but if you stop applying effort, it will naturally find equilibrium back in the center of the valley. An unstable equilibrium is just the opposite. It's a hill. If a ball was placed on the hill, the moment you apply just enough pressure, it'll roll all the way down the hill. It'll do the work for you. You don't have to push it down. And then it's going to be a hell of a time getting that ball back up the hill. In life, it is also important that we become stable in our equilibrium. That we find a kind of equilibrium that even if someone or something were to push us, like the ball in the valley, we naturally come back to our resting point. Rather than trying to precariously balance everything on the top of a mountain, then even a gust of wind takes us tumbling down, spiraling, and we end up going head over heels. And thank you, Annalie, for your heart me. And Christopher, thank you for your heart me. Radhe Radhe. And good night, Alice. Thank you for your presence here. And thank you, Abhikash, for your rose. Jai Sita Ram. Yes, it is probably a good time we begin landing the plane. I concur, Sky Guardian. We have elapsed 13 hours and 13 minutes. 13 hours, did I say? 3 hours, jeez. That's next time, for the next Yamathon. Be a long time, wouldn't it? So tonight we'll end our live with 3 things as usual. I have a question of the day for you all. Then we'll be doing a short reading, and then we'll be contemplating on a play. Just like yesterday, our meditation will have as its object a shadow play. That'll be fun to listen to and watch, primarily. But until then, my question of the day today is, what part of you would benefit from more love? Specifically, from your love. What part of yourself could use your own love? Maybe a part that you haven't been wanting to love, or maybe it's a part that seems to soak up love like a sponge, but yet could always use a little more. You share, Gregor G. Your brain. I love that. Yes. We got to take good care of our brain. It's an important organ. And thank you, July Moon Child, for your heart me. Hari Om Tat Sat. Gillian. On the topic of love, you shared that you don't think you will ever really find love. That's good, because it's love that finds you anyway. If you go out looking for it, you'll never find it. Besides, love is not about finding the right person with all of their qualities the way you like. It's about becoming the right person with all the right qualities that you like. And that is definitely within your potential. Dansuela. You would like to love your inner child so pure. And I am sure your inner child loves you so much. Lexus, you share your insecurities. And what a great place to give love to. Room for you, you share our mind. And thank you, Heaven Bound, for your heart me a minute ago. Hari Om Tat Sat. Peter Schaefer, you share savings for afterlife. I like that. I was learning from this person named Anuj the other day that the Sanskrit term for that is Sanchit Karma. It's our karma bank from past lives, our savings account. Some of us are overdrawn, let me tell you. Others of us have a lot of savings there that we're too stubborn to tap into because we're waiting for the right investment. Tara, thank you for your heart me and a rose. And Romy, thank you for your balloons. Hari Om Tat Sat. And that is right, Sky Guardian. You know the one. Kim Possible. You wish someone loved you with the energy you love others. And you know, actually, that is beautiful. Because that goes to show that you are loving people the way you wish to be loved. So you are already fulfilling the golden rule to treat others the way you want to be treated. But you flip the script on yourself. You put it like this: I want to be treated the way I treat others. But what you are doing is beautiful already. That you are treating others the way you want to be treated. And that's enough. Hello, Groven. Romy, you share that you want to give some love for your legs. You're on your nurse legs all day. You should let them rest. Sometimes you don't sit down for 12 hours. That is so impressive. I think one of the lesser talked about but more impressive feats of workers is standing all day. It's incredible. Cashiers come to mind as well. You're just standing there ringing in groceries, and they don't even have to, which is the funny part. Now, for a nurse, it makes sense that you're running around, taking care of so many responsibilities. But why don't they let cashiers have a chair? It's not like they need to be standing. That's always made me laugh. But I feel for you all who have to stand all day. It's a lot of weight to carry. Literally. Addy, you want to give love to your stomach and body. Battling with disordered eating for years has had a toll on you. And that's very understandable. Although my experience with that has been limited to under-eating for a lot of my life. I would rephrase my own experience as less of a battle as it was a very stubborn friendship that took a while to come to mutual understanding. But perhaps that is ultimately what a battle is. And NJB, thank you for your heart me. And 38 team bracelets. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Dude, you ask, can I give you a room tour? As much as I would like to, it is not possible given my current setup. My phone is on a very short charger, which is necessary because it's not only charging, it's distributing the information from the camera to my laptop. It's also held in place by a stand, so the setup is not conducive to such exploration of my personal abode, but perhaps some other time. NJB, you share that it was supposed to be 37, but I got an extra one tonight. Thank you. Actually, you were just early for next time. Next time, you only have to send 36. Just kidding. You don't have to send anything at all next time. But I appreciate it. Thank you. And Suz Namaste. Thank you for your 7 finger hearts. Here's some for you as well. Radhe Radhe. And thank you, Feline, for your rose also. Denise, you share that your stubborn side needs to be loved into submission. That's a funny way of putting it. I respect it. And thank you for remembering that. And Jay, 37 is a favorite number of mine. You do remember correctly. You're a good listener. And Anna, you want to give love to a part of you that you're still trying to reach. And you know the best part of that is, Anna, that love can reach farther than our hands, reach farther than our body, than our mind. Love is the perfect tool to reach for higher things because it extends much farther than we can reach. So thank you everyone for exploring my question of the day today. You know, it makes me so happy to hear from all of you in this way. Now, if you had another answer and you really want to share it, as always, you're welcome to put it under the comment of the YouTube video when we finally upload it within a few hours. Or you can even message me. I like hearing your messages. That's an option for you. Without further ado, let us read another section from In Love at Ease, Everyday Spirituality with Pramukh Swami Maharaj. Here we are finally starting chapter 2, which is In Love is the name. Subtitle, Bhakti personified. Bhakti meaning love and devotion, or loving devotion. Part 1. Loving the divine in all of creation. Ooh, I'm excited for this already. Here we are reading from the perspective of the author, Yogi Trivedi, who was a devotee and still is of Pramukh Swami Maharaj, although Swami Sri has left his body. I was in Gondal in the days leading up to Diwali in 2016, the first after my guru's passing away. The mood around the BAPS Swami Narayan Mandir campus, the BAPS being the organization which Pramukh Swami was the head of, and the city, to a certain extent, was mellow, since most were remembering the laughter and light during the festivities in Swami Sri's presence. Gondal stood apart as one of the more advanced princely states in Gujarat at the turn of the 20th century. It was the epicenter of cultural and educational innovation in the region. Maharaja Bhagwat Singh Ji, the king of Gondal from 1869 to 1944, had drawn from his time in London and Edinburgh to create a modern city with street lights, advanced sewage systems, telegraph and telephone cables, and model primary schools. He also instituted compulsory education for young girls until the 4th grade. His passion for education and research resulted in the publication of the first ever Gujarati dictionary, the Bhagavad Gomandal. For the Swami Narayan community, based around the worship and devotion of a great being known as Swami Narayan, Gondal is one of the most visited pilgrimage sites. Bhagwan Swami Narayan, its first spiritual successor, Gunatinanand Swami, from 1784 to 1867, was cremated in Gondal. The Akshar Deri shrine commemorates this significant location. In 1940, Shastri Narayan Swarup Das, also known here as Swami Sri, was initiated as a sadhu at the Akshar Deri. Swami Sri's guru, Yogi-ji Maharaj, whom the play that we'll be meditating on later is about, incidentally, celebrated several festivals every year in Gondal, and Swami Sri continued this tradition until he settled in Sarangpur in his later years. For all these reasons, I spent a good portion of my early trips to India at the Mandir in Gondal. And that is right, Gregor-ji. BAPS is an acronym standing for, here we go, Bocha Sanwasi Akshar Purushottam Swami Narayan Santa. A mouthful. The sun bore down heavily during the day in Gondal, but the moon of the Sharad season, fall, cooled temperatures enough for one to enjoy an evening stroll. The night had settled enough one evening for me to hear the soothing sound of flowing waters of the Gondali River behind the Mandir. The monsoon had just passed, and the water in the river was a refreshing sight for the pilgrims, and also, unfortunately, mosquitoes the size of horseflies. I had to keep walking, or they would feast on my arms and feet. Through my continuous pace, interrupted with erratic swats to deter the mosquitoes, I noticed a Sadguru, a senior-most sadhu in the community, after the Guru. Swayam Prakash Das Swami, also known as Dr. Swami, out for his nightly walk. I joined him in the foyer of the sadhu's residence. My mind was racing with thoughts of separation from my late Guru and worries about how I would continue my personal spiritual journey. He sensed my unease and asked me what was on my mind. The spiritual journey confuses me. It is complicated, and I am worried about the ifs, whens, and hows. He stopped walking and held my hand to maintain his balance. I used to overthink spirituality too, until Pramukh Swami Maharaj's Guru, Yogi-ji Maharaj, addressed a few of us in Kabul, Wadi, Mumbai. Our conversation with him that afternoon changed our lives. It is why I am here today. I am hoping that it will benefit you too. Yogi-ji Maharaj said, God is our mother and father. This Kabul Wadi is our home. These bhaktas, devotees, and sadhus, monks, are our family. The spiritual journey is simple: to love, serve, and value those we live with and the world we live in. To love and experience the divine within us, and to love and have faith in God and Guru. Love, bhakti, for the divine is spirituality. Quite simple. Pramukh Swami Maharaj has shown us the path. He was always in love, bhakti maya, immersed in bhakti. Love can be easy to spark, yet difficult to sustain. Easy to feel, yet difficult to articulate. But why? Perhaps for the fear of vulnerability and abandonment. The expectations of reciprocation and appreciation. Love can be the means to fill a void. Sometimes love can be used to feel better about oneself. What if there is a way to love from a place of fulfillment and not from a place of despair? What if there exists selfless, unconditional love that is driven by the yearning to give? Love that is warm, constant, non-judgmental, and forgiving. A love that touches humans but feels divine. A love that is contagious and at once respectful of the other's boundaries. A love that is not just spoken about from a pulpit or written about in books, but is part of people's lives. A love that is comforting to the world, kind to oneself, and driven by faith in the divine. This love, bhakti, is the cornerstone of Pramukh Swami Maharaj's spirituality. His love is bhakti personified. The word bhakti is derived from the Sanskrit verbal root bhaj, to share, feed, come together, bond, indulge, receive, give, worship, honor, possess, adore, prefer, engage, or appreciate. If that is not love, what is? It describes a relationship of give and take between the human and the divine, the lover and the beloved. Bhakti is the foundation of spirituality in the Swami Narayan tradition and in most Hindu traditions. Sikhs, Jains, and many Buddhists articulate their love for the divine through a similar personal relationship of service and submission. Though bhakti is commonly translated as devotion in English, which I am certainly guilty for doing, it is so much more. In bhakti, God is not abstract or distant, but speaks with you, listens to you, and accepts your offerings in various forms. Bhakti is that bond that holds together communities, families, people, the creation, and its creator. Bhakti is the purest form of love for all of God's creation, and anywhere else one finds divinity. This form of divinity resides not only in sacred images or the words of God, but in all of its creation and within oneself. Pramukh Swami Maharaj had perfected this vision and inspired it in those around him. Swami Sri's love melted hearts and boundaries and encouraged faith and unity. It built a community that changed the way they interacted with the divine in themselves and the world around them. I turn to these quote-unquote love stories in 3 distinct parts in this chapter. Part 1 explains how Pramukh Swami Maharaj was in love, so to speak, with all of creation. Part 2 speaks of his self-love, experiencing his Atman, true inner self, beyond the body and mind. Part 3 describes his love for God and his gurus. By the way, it was indirectly implied, but his guru was Yogi-ji, Yogi-ji Swami Maharaj, whom we will be watching a short play about after this, as I mentioned. This broad type and range of love was based on a simple formula of understanding all of creation as manifestation of his beloved, Bhagwan Swami Narayan. The source of his strength to love those around him so selflessly while maintaining a sense of equilibrium within himself was his love for the divine in an obsequious manner. That's a new word for me, obsequious, and I love the way it sounds already. It is this secret to being quote-unquote in love that may benefit us in our daily interactions with the divine, within and beyond us. Love for all that helps one find the self, and ultimately the divine, is the paramount learning acquired through bhakti on the spiritual path. It is by far the greatest learning from Swami Sri's life. For Swami Sri, bhakti was not just love expressed through mere words. It was articulated through intent, sacrifice, empathy, and selfless generosity. It was a state of being. He did not just love, he remained in love. Swami Sri's love was sacred to millions. It gave them renewed hope to continue their pursuit of spirituality in this world and to the next. Swami Sri's love fills the pages of this chapter. Out of respect for the profound relationship between the Guru and the subjects of his love, I reflect and observe in silence. Here, I let these love stories speak for themselves. And we will listen to these love stories next time. But what a amazing introduction to them. Yogi-ji? Well, we will be learning about another Yogi-ji. Here I am talking about the author, Yogi, addressed endearingly, Ji, Trivedi, has effortlessly put together words in such a combination which sparks, pardon me, so much love, Bhakti. I look forward to the continuing of this chapter soon. As I mentioned, as we read, we discussed how the successor of Yogi-ji, Swami Maharaj, was Pramukh Swami Maharaj. And now again today, he has been succeeded by another Swami, Mahant Swami Maharaj. But let us learn about the Guru of Pramukh Swami Maharaj by watching a short shadow play, which sounds exactly what it is. A play performed with shadows cast on a large screen from a light source behind where the actors and actresses are in between. Unlike yesterday, where we listened to a shadow play that also had English narration, this one is done in Gujarati, which is the traditional language of the Swaminarayan community. However, Sky Guardian has assured me that you will still understand simply by watching the forms of light and shadow appear before you. So without further ado, let us watch this play. I will be minimizing the background music now and maximizing this shadow play.
गीता में छो साधु साचा सहन शक्ति जोई फूटे वाचा जो जो तमने काई नहीं थई जा योगी तने खम्मा खम्मा योगी तने खम्मा खम्मा योगी तने खम्मा खम्मा योगी तने खम्मा खम्मा जमवानो पहलो कोड़ियो अटकावियो होवा तू बोलवानो कीधूं तमने
स्वामीनारायण संगवाद करी भजन करता
लोटो भरीने पत्थर मा पाणी कोदू करीने जमाड्यू तमने अंगड़ा पर वेलणना घारे रे अंगड़ा पर वेलणना घारे रे हसता हसता केम सहा योगी तने खम्मा खम्मा योगी तने खम्मा खम्मा योगी तने खम्मा खम्मा योगी तने खम्मा खम्मा हाजी भला साधु हाजी भला साधु हाजी भला साधु हाजी भला साधु महाराज नावो स्वामी नावो नारायण धरे અપશબ્દો વરસાવ્યા, પથ્થરેથી મારવાતા તમને, પથ્થરેથી મારવાતા તમને. તેજ દ્વેષીને પ્રેમે જમાડ્યા, સુવાડ્યા, ગાળામાં બેસાડ્યા તમે. અત્યાચારીઓની સામે અરે રે, અત્યાચારીઓની સામે અરે રે, અજાતશત્રુ કેમ થવા. યોગી તને ખમ્મા ખમ્મા, યોગી તને ખમ્મા ખમ્મા, યોગી તને ખમ્મા ખમ્મા, યોગી તને ખમ્મા ખમ્મા. જમોને જમાડું, જમોને જમાડું, જમોને જમાડું, જમોને જમાડું. યજમાનગી ભૂલ્યા પુને દંડાવ્યા, બળતાણ લાકડેથી મારા તમોને. બરડા પર બહુ સોડ પડ્યાતા, ગડદા પાટુઆથી ખાધા તમે. માસનો લોચો નીકળ્યા રે રે, માસનો લોચો નીકળ્યા અરે રે, તોય ગુરુ ગુરુ કેમ બોલાય. યોગી તને ખમ્મા ખમ્મા, યોગી તને ખમ્મા ખમ્મા, યોગી તને ખમ્મા ખમ્મા, યોગી તને ખમ્મા ખમ્મા. સ્વામી નારાયણ, સ્વામી નારાયણ, સ્વામી નારાયણ, સ્વામી નારાયણ.
Thank you for watching, everyone. It is clear that Pramukh Swami Maharaj's guru has gone through quite a life, isn't it? Even though we might not be able to understand the language, I think the message of his life is still very loud and lives on today. So with that, we will be closing today's live stream. But again, I dearly thank you, Sky Guardian, for sending that play for us to meditate upon. And thank you, everyone, for joining us, even if you just came in a few moments ago. And whilst I read, I also got some gifts that I would like to extend my gratitude back to. Like Ron, who sent a heart me a few minutes ago. Thank you. Radhe Radhe. And Usha, thank you for your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 finger hearts. Thank you. Jai Swami Narayan. And Usha, you also sent 10 roses. Thank you for those as well. Never expected, always appreciated. Radhe Radhe. And Feline, thank you for your 20 roses. Hari Om Tat Sat. And Ron, thank you for your 10 finger hearts also. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And good night, Denise. Oh my goodness. You know what I almost called you, Denise? I almost called you disease. But you are anything but a lack of ease. For you are effortlessly a participant which imbues so much ease into the Sangha. Thank you. And thank you, Feline, for another rose. And much love to you, Dansuela. Happy to have you here. Much love, Gregor-ji. I know that you mentioned doing a traditional African chant sometime for closing, and I won't forget that, definitely. With love, at ease, indeed. If ever you felt like any of you, there was something more you could have gotten from this live, well, I will be uploading the whole thing, as always, to my Yamsox Lives YouTube channel, if you're interested. Or if you ever just want to listen to a live stream when I'm not live, we got a whole catalog there. But it's more than just a catalog. That channel also serves as a place where we upload the meditations that we do, the chantings, and the readings as well, which all have their own dedicated playlists. Thanks to Sky Guardian. Also, there's another YouTube channel where we read through the Bhagavad Gita ASMR style and a couple other things that we do there too. You're welcome to explore. Check it out. Have a little look-see. And also, if you noticed on my microphone, there's a pair of yam socks. They're socks with yams on them. I helped design these yams. They're unique. You won't find them anywhere else in the world other than on these socks. And not these one in particular, but you can buy socks from the link tree in my bio. It has a store tab. I sell two things. Yam socks and, wait for it, a toque, as we say in Canada, that says, yippee, from a little tiny diny. It's also a sticker in the sticker pack that live subscribers get. But I always feel icky talking about money because it's not the main point of this live stream. The point, however, is honestly because many of you asked for it. And it makes me feel good that if you do want to support me, that you get something in return. I appreciate the need to have something physical for your contribution, although it's never expected, nor is it necessary for your participation here. You are welcome to always be here without ever sending a single penny. But with the help that I do get, it pays for my food, as well as, my therapy, other essentials. And the main thing in my life right now is saving up for a trip to India. And I think I'm there. I have saved up 2,400 Canadian dollarinos. And I feel like that's enough. I'm sure more would help, but that almost certainly covers the plane ticket, I think. I'll have to double check, of course, and, I am sure that I can bug a grandparent if I need to fill in whatever is remaining. But from you, I am just blown away at all of your generosity, and it is very humbling. It is beyond something which I'm able to express in words, how important this trip means to me and your contribution. I will certainly be taking you all with me virtually in any way that I can, vlogging, and with the right internet, I hope to also do live streams from there as well. We shall see. I've never left my country, so I don't know the logistics of travel and having an internet presence, but you definitely deserve it, since you all have contributed so much to it. So thank you. And with that, we will be closing today's Sangha. Much love and best wishes and blessings to all of you. And Anna Lee, I see you sent 9 roses and a tiny diny. Yippee! I'm ridiculous, I know. Thank you, Feline, for a pair of roses as well. And the link below. Thank you for your 14 fires. Radhe Radhe. May you all have a beautiful rest of your present moment. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care, everyone. Bye.